Here walking with the girls in Druzhba. Druzhba means friendship, by the way. It's the name of this town. We've got another old Soviet apartment there. It's got a Dixie 24-hour pharmacy there, built right in. Soviet planners tended to view, from my understanding, each apartment complex was supposed to be sort of its own little mini town. There'd be pharmacies and grocery stores either built into the building or immediately adjacent to them. The idea being people never had to go far for their essentials. So, bus stop, quite ubiquitous here. Russians use buses and trains quite a bit more than at least we do in the southeast. I don't know how it is up north, but I'm not 100% sure what this little building is, but it's got an Orthodox cross on top. As you can see, these Soviet apartment buildings would just go on forever and ever and ever. Tremendous. And this one is much smaller than the one we were at yesterday. But a lot of folks like to criticize the Soviet architecture, but I actually have quite an appreciation for it. I've always been a function over form sort of person. This is a Praktika FK. I'm not 100% sure what that is. I think I heard mention that there was some sort of a spiritual center in Druzhba, so that may be what this is. I looked inside and there were a lot of, there were rows and rows of books, so it could well be some kind of a meditation retreat or some such thing. As I walk, you'll see a tremendous mix of cars, much wider variety than we ever had in America. You know, they've got a Dodge there, a Ford there, Russian guys there, Nissans, Mercedes, Hyundais, Daewoo's, Daihatsus, Sanyongs, Chevys, Porsches, Audis, Volkswagens, Alfa Romeos, Skodas, Volvos, Waziks, Ladas, Kias, Renaults, Citroens, Peugeots, Rovers, you name it. And a bunch of cars that I've never heard of. A lot of Chinese cars. Since the sanctions have been passed, finding parts. Oh, there's a biblioteca. It's a library, number 4. Again, built right into an apartment building. Russian roads are oftentimes kind of wide. Russians complain about the narrowness of American roads. But at the same time, quite frequently they're like this, where there's no distinct lines drawn on the road. So, and they use a lot more, they're in general a lot more road signs, and sometimes they can be kind of cryptic. Sophia thinks it's all meant to confuse the driver, to squeeze a few more rubli out of them, but I don't know. Walked by this place earlier. This is an Ozonbros Torgovi Dom. I'm not entirely sure what Torgovi means. Dome is house. Looks like it's, if I had to guess, I'm not sure what kind of writing that is down there. I don't know. looks like perhaps Circassian, so I'm guessing maybe Georgia. It smelled like pizza when I was walking by. Quite nice. This structure over here is a tennis club. Big tennis club. This is, yeah, let's see if I can read this correctly. I'm not sure if that's Pyamyorochka or Pyat. No, that's Pyatr Yorochka. See the number 5 there, Pyat. Now exactly what that is, I don't know. Looks like I see lots of alcohol inside. It may be a liquor store, maybe just a convenience store, I'm not sure. There's a tech center. Presumably they repair technologies, and of course, Druzhba, auto friend, or auto friendship. Yeah, there's even a little android of sorts there. There's the corner of that tennis building, and still the never-ending Soviet apartments. I've always sort of appreciated the Spartanness of them. They have decorative features, like, for example, the way those bars over those windows are sort of in a sunburst pattern, but for the most part, they were designed to meet a function, and they met that function well. And to me, that's the hallmark of good design, not a bunch of embellishments and gaudy decorations. But again, that's just me. Sportivny Complex Druzhba. There's a big sporting complex. Got our informacja board there. Haven't really noticed any of these people looking at me too close. That's an Oman officer there. I don't want to attract too much attention from him, so I won't film him. There's a Yandex taxi. Playground. The playgrounds have really stepped up their game since the first time I was in Russia. And the first time I was here, they were all very obviously dating from the Soviet era. They were all metallic in construction. The flooring was just dirt instead of this sort of rubberized tile. And it was quite common. Every playground I visited while I was here in 2006, you'd see used hypodermic needles or broken vodka bottles or something like that on the ground. Now they actually look more or less up to American standards. This part is a little bit more in the Soviet style, but even it's in much better condition than what you saw back in the day. In general, one thing I've noticed, there have been many things in Russia, I think, that have gone downhill over the past 15 years or so. But materially, they're doing much better. You don't notice, you don't see big, I'm not aware of prostitution out in the open like I was in 2006. You don't see drug use out in the open. I'm sure both still exist. Of course, they existed in America, but it used to be it was really in your face. Now it would be as unusual seeing somebody shooting up heroin on the street here today as it would be in my hometown in America. It's just not done in broad daylight anymore. The police, I have limited interaction with them, seemed a little bit, for better or for worse, they seemed a little bit less inclined to take a bribe, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Um, the But this is more or less the end of this street here. Just figured I'd take you on a tour through Druzhba. That truck has the white, blue, white flag on it, which is a sort of protest symbol here in Russia. Protest against what the government calls the special military operation in the adjacent country. But I don't think that particular one was actually meant to be white, blue, white. I think it was just faded. The red had faded out of it. I did, however, see another truck, actually, another tractor-trailer. He had the Russian tricolor painted on the hood, but he also immediately beneath had white, blue, white. So he was rather boldly expressing his political sentiments, something that is not without risk in Russia today. Anyway, there we have an old Gaz Volga. I say old, that one's not that old. That one looks like it was early 2000s maybe. Gaz Volga was made for many, many years. That's the car my wife's family had when I first got to know them. It was a little bit of a somewhat classier car than the Ladas during the Soviet era, which, by the way, during the Soviet era were not called Lada. Lada was the export name, is my understanding. I'm going off of memory, so if I'm incorrect, forgive me. But they were always called Zhiguli in the Soviet era. And I think they're also sort of used, they're also sort of called Togliatti as well. If memory serves, Togliatti is the name of the town that the factory is in. And it's over near Yekaterinburg, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I'm going off of memory and I'm describing places that I've never been, so. There we have, in that car, I don't know if you can see it, old Zhiguli actually, but it had a St. George ribbon tied around the rearview mirror. St. George ribbon is a sort of classic, we'll call it a little bit militarist symbol in Russia. It is sometimes used like yellow ribbons are in America, and other times it's a little bit more militarist than that. You do see a few signs of support for the so-called special military operation, but you actually don't see that many of those either. You see signs around town, recruiting some billboards that say things like, it'll have a picture of a soldier and it says, "Our profession is defending the motherland," or "Victory will be ours," or different variations on that theme. And you also see some of the St. George ribbons, and I've seen maybe two cars that had a Latin Z painted on them. And there was a gate that had very prominently the Latin letters ZV painted on them. And my wife said, it's probably just the guy's initials. And I said, well, then why is it not in Cyrillic? Why is it in Latin? That has a different meaning rather than initials. Of course, it could also be the guy's name happened to have been something like Vladimir Zelensky, but that would have been a rather ironic and humorous turn of events. But, anyway, That's my ramble in Druzhba. I like it here.